Hi guys, let's talk about the Hunger Games, which has had a resurgence in popularity recently because of the incredible prequels that Suzanne Collins has released over the past few years. Just when we thought that the Hunger Games series couldn't get any better, boom, Suzanne Collins throws us these two incredible books. For me, both of them were 5 out of 5 stars. So that is Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping. Both very different books, both incredible for different reasons. Now, I don't rate 5 stars often, I'm very picky when I read books, so let's see how they stack up against each other. Today we're taking a deep dive into the country of Panem and discussing, yes, these are both 5-star reads, for me, but which Hunger Games prequel is better? You tell me, and I'll tell you. Let's all share our opinions, even if they're not the same. So first, let's set the stage. We'll start with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I actually have 2 editions of this book. Bought this version when it was first released, bought this one because it looked pretty. So this book goes way back, 64 years before Katniss Everdeen's games, which is where the initial Hunger Games trilogy begins. In this book, we have the 10th annual Hunger Games. And in this day and age, the Hunger Games were used as this crude punishment tool. Honestly, the conditions are harrowing. It is so distressing and despicable to think about the treatment of the tributes in this book. Both the conditions prior to the games and within them themselves are awful. Everything about it is cruel and essentially a form of torture. Our protagonist is 18-year-old, I'm going to butcher his name, Coriolanus Snow. I'm just going to say Snow. Coriolanus. Yep, good old President Snow, but as a young boy. So in the original Hunger Games trilogy, we only see him as an old man. However, we are now seeing President Snow 64 years younger, where he is 18. This book focuses on his struggle to maintain his family's reputation and status in a post-rebellion capital. He's a student at the Capital Academy and he is desperate to protect his family's fading legacy. So he is assigned to mentor the District 12 tribute, which is Lucy Gray Baird. What an influential woman. And this is a pivotal moment that shapes his entire future. What unfolds in this book is part romance, part political thriller, and part philosophical study on power, privilege, and performance as well. And we get a massive character transformation, seeing Snow, who he was before he was this big evil baddie in the original Hunger Games trilogy. So now, let's fast forward 40 years to Sunrise on the Reaping. This is the prequel that follows Haymitch, a fan favourite. So he was the mentor for Katniss and Peter in the original Hunger Games trilogy. And he is taking part in the brutal 50th Hunger Games, which is the second quarter quell, which means they add a twist onto it. As though the Hunger Games wasn't bad enough, they've then got to add in some juiciness to make it even worse. So this time we have double the tributes, which means double the deaths and double the horror. So this book follows Haymitch as a standard District 12 tribute in the 50th Hunger Games. This one also offers a gritty look into the Hunger Games' evolution, so we have a massive difference in terms of the games in this book compared to this book. In this book, they are a form of torture and a punishment. In this book, the Hunger Games are described as this beautiful setting, but everything is laced with poison, almost like the torture and the brutality is disguised and hidden by the beautifulness of the arena. This book, in my opinion, is much darker, it's faster paced, and it is more emotionally impactful and raw. This one has traps, betrayal, trauma, and it's the origin story for the very emotionally damaged man that we meet in the original trilogy. We see Haymitch as this alcohol-dependent, bitter man who's just trying to survive. This gives us the reason why. And it is, quite frankly, depressing. Character development is where both of these books shine, so let's talk about it. Let's start with Snow. In The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, we witness Snow's transformation from privileged student trying to maintain his family's status into a calculating, manipulative leader. He has a very complex relationship with Lucy Gray Baird, which does add a lot of depth to his character, but this does the thing that I thought was impossible. It makes you care to some degree about a future dictator, which just feels crazy to say. For a while, I was rooting for him and I cared deeply about him. And then I had to catch myself and remember, he's President Snow, he's insane. And that is the power and the talent of Suzanne Collins and this novel, and one of the main reasons why I rated it 5 stars, because the fact that it can make me do that and feel something for Snow that was anything other than hatred, that's a talent. In this book, we see the raw emotions that Snow doesn't ever really display. We see his insecurities, we see the things that he cares about. He's deeply insecure and obsessed with status and reputation. And we get to watch his slow unravelling into a villain, and I really enjoyed that transformation. When I first started reading this book, it didn't feel like the same Snow. I was thinking, how could this turn into President Snow? What happens to him to turn him from this pretty normal guy who's experienced a lot of hardship, to be honest, to then turning into an insane dictator? Lucy Gray is mysterious, she's theatrical, she's unpredictable, and that messes with Snow's head, which further makes their relationship very complex. And then we have Haymitch. So if you loved his sharp wit and his pain in the trilogy, this gives us the why he is like this, why he is sarcastic, witty, deeply troubled. This tells us everything, and I can understand it now. This is a coming-of-age story. He is clever, he is funny, but underneath the surface of it all, he is just a young kid who's trying to play a game with no rules and no mercy. We also meet his family, his allies, potential love interests, but the toll of the games is brutal. Unlike Snow, Haymitch resists the Capitol's control, whereas Snow goes along with it. And the difference is that Snow is a mentor, whereas Haymitch is a tribute. Their experiences are vastly different. Sometimes he is smart, sometimes he is reckless, but every choice costs him. He makes decisions that seem for the greater good, but there are massive repercussions, whereas the decisions that Snow makes don't really have any repercussions for him. If anything, they just allow him to survive and thrive, whereas Haymitch's life is basically destroyed by the end of this book. Haymitch presents himself as a very reluctant hero. He knows what he needs to do. He doesn't want to be the one who has to do this and to represent the rebellion. He's just been through so much. Give this kid a break, please. So his experience in the arena and the subsequent rebellion against the Capitol highlight his resilience and his moral complexities of survival as well. Snow's character arc is about corruption, Haymitch's is about resistance, in my opinion. Both are very, very fascinating, but I do have to say I think that Haymitch's hit me more emotionally. Let's also talk about themes and world building. So both novels explore themes of power, control, rebellion. So the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes introduces us to the Capitol rebuilding. So the games are still in their infancy. The stark contrast between the Capitol's opulence compared to the district's poverty is actually mind-blowing. The games in Ballad are displayed as a spectacle. We see Capitol students pitching arena ideas around as though it's a game and not messing with people's lives. They're not taking it very seriously. One of the most chilling aspects of this book is that the games are not polished yet. So the thing that I actually found the hardest to deal with was the treatment of the districts from the Capitol. The tributes are literally kept in a zoo. There's no career training, there's no survival skills to learn. There is absolutely no glamour, which is a massive contrast to Katniss's experience in the build-up to her Hunger Games, where she gets a chance to train, to build alliances. She's kept in very well hygienic conditions. So we contrast that with Sunrise, in which the games are more like a PR machine. The arena is booby-trapped, the tributes are groomed, and the whole thing is showcased on TV in high definition. The trauma is televised. We see more of the district's reaction to the Capitol's manipulation in this book, whereas we don't get that in Ballad. Sunrise on the Reaping builds on the foundations that were initially set in Ballad. So it showcases a Capitol that has solidified its dominance. It's very well set. The games are more brutal, the district's resistance is growing, the rebellion is beginning to take form, and we can start to see how this trickles into the beginning of the original trilogy. We can start to see the links. I feel like this was the missing puzzle piece between Ballad and the original trilogy. This slots in the middle perfectly, starts to connect the links of the chain. Theme-wise, I feel like Ballad explores power, propaganda, identity, whereas Sunrise is more about trauma, memory, and rebellion. And we can start to see in Sunrise the elements which later on inspire Katniss. So let's weigh the pros and cons. Starting with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The strengths include taking a deep dive into Snow's mind, which we don't normally get. We see the early days of the Hunger Games, which I absolutely love. However, some readers may find the pacing slow, and Snow's moral ambiguity can be very challenging to get to grips with. You almost feel guilty for understanding and connecting with him. In fact, he's very, very hard to root for because we know what he does later on in the original trilogy, so I think that some readers will find that disconnecting. So pros, we get a deep psychological insight into Snow's mind, intriguing morally grey characters, fascinating early capital world building, and lush writing and symbolism. But the cons, the pacing can drag, especially in the third part of the book. Snow is very hard to root for by design, that is just his character, so some readers may disconnect to that. And there are some frustrating elements to Lucy Gray, how enigmatic she is, her storyline never fully finishes, it's left wide open. But then let's move on to talking about the pros and cons of Sunrise, in which these strengths tend to lie in Haymitch's compelling journey and the darker, more mature tones. Like, it's definitely written for an older audience, this one. But then some people may feel like because of that the narrative is too familiar to the original trilogy. So the pros. Emotional gut punch of a story. Fast-paced and action-heavy. Haymitch is instantly compelling from the get-go. And you've got your more classic Hunger Games frills because of its closer proximity to the original trilogy. But the cons, slightly less guesswork or subtlety. It kind of does tell you straight away what's going on, whereas I feel like there's a little bit more interpretation in Ballad. Some side characters maybe feel a little bit underdeveloped, but that is purely because they all die very, very quickly, so we don't get a chance to learn about them. And there are fewer capital scenes, so if you enjoy the political intrigue, then you will like looking at Snow's side of it as he's directly involved in the capital. So to put it short, Ballad is the thinker and Sunrise is the fighter. So, the final verdict, which prequel is better? This is tough because they are both brilliant at what they do and for completely different reasons. They serve different storytelling purposes, and like I said, to me, both of these books were 5 stars. They were basically almost perfect. It took me a while to think about any cons for them because I just loved them both. It really does depend on what you're looking for. If you're interested in the origins of the game and learning more about a future dictator and his character transformation, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is your pick. This is for you. If you're drawn towards a more compelling tale that is emotionally impactful, trauma heavy, and focused on survival and resistance, Sunrise on the Reaping will stand out for you. If you're into character studies, moral ambiguity, wanting to understand how a villain is made, Ballad is your winner. If you crave fast-paced survival, emotional stakes, and a protagonist that you can actually root for, then Sunrise on the Reaping takes the crown for you. The one with the ending that made me gasp the most and made me had to sit and process it the most was Sunrise on the Reaping. The ending of this book made me sit in silence for a while, and I just don't think there's a way I can describe that feeling. So for me, although both of them are incredible, the one that is staying with me the most in terms of emotions would be Sunrise. This is probably the slightly better prequel in my opinion. However, Ballad is so thought-provoking, I couldn't stop thinking about this after I read it, and this was a really hard competition between the two. I found both of these equally captivating. They each offer unique insights into Panem, and I just think every single book in the Hunger Games is blooming brilliant. But if I had to pick a favourite of the prequels, I do think ever so slightly it might be Sunrise. But I change my mind every day because these are both incredible. So now I want to hear from you. So which prequel is your favourite? What did you think? Are you Team Snow? I hope not. Team Haymitch? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments, so make sure to share those with me. Let me know what you thought to these books. Did you agree with me that they are both 5 out of 5 star reads? Or have you not yet read them? but are you more drawn towards one more than the other now that I've discussed them both? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you like my content and you want to see more from me, then please subscribe because it's free and it means that you'll see my videos easier. I would also love to give a huge thank you to the members that are supporting my channel. This means so much to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want access to cool perks or you'd like to support the channel in any way, then please check out the channel memberships. Hopefully there'll be something on there for you to enjoy. And it really does mean a lot to me. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.